think that's one of the things that a lot of people are scared of. If they like don't have their opinions and they just sit there and listen, they're like, well, if all I'm doing is listening, where's my value in the conversation? When do I get to like get value out of this thing by expressing myself? It's like, well, expressing yourself isn't the only way to get value, I guess.
Correct.
G'day everyone, welcome to another episode of the Wartooth. How are you today, mate?
Fabulous, mate. Anzac Day it is here in Australia.
Absolutely.
So, hope everyone's feeling grateful and, having a great morning so far.
Paying your respects to the fallen and to the sacrifices of generations past for the wonderful country that we get to live in today.
It's a beautiful place.
Mate, it is. It really is. I'm so grateful, man. It's like, I woke up this morning, went to the dawn service thing, and
oh really?
Yeah,
right.
Just sitting there, just taking it all in, and just like obviously the tragedies of Anzac Day and things were over 100 years ago now, but it was just like, wow, like, just imagine if that hadn't happened, like what life would be like today if somebody didn't make that sacrifice, if a lot of people didn't make that sacrifice.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things, like, it just really reminds you of that gratitude for the world around you and the country that we live in and the way the world is, man. Because anything could go in any direction if things were different, if people made different choices and different sacrifices.
Yeah. I mean, the Germans had 2 goes at it and they haven't got it right yet, so,
There's something to be said there for German efficiency.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But now they've definitely got it under control. They make some good shit now, but back then, obviously, the willpower and the young fellas getting after it, they got after it well, and they saved us from all speaking German, I guess.
Well, I mean, yeah, if that's a problem.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? That's one of the things we spoke about last time on the Raw Truth, was that whole idea of conflict, and nobody has to be right or wrong. It's just we have different ways of looking at things.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not defending like Nazis or anything like that, but that needs to be said. But it's like it's a conflict. There's 2 people that both think they're right.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess the winner of the conflict gets to decide who's right.
Correct.
If history went the other way, the Australians, the English, whatever, the Americans would have been the bad guys. It's like the winners write history.
That's right.
And they make the other team out to be the bad guy.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. No, they weren't around to defend themselves, so tough titties for the losers.
That's it, mate. And Joshua Sweeney's here this morning, and I can see a few other people are here this morning.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
Joshua's put up a nice little tribute there to the Anzacs. So I guess we've got a few international viewers here, Wally.
Maybe.
A little bit of a very short explanation of what Anzac Day is for the people that are overseas that may not know.
Yeah.
So it's a remembrance. Anzacs are the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, hence Anzac. It's the Anzac Day is a remembrance day basically for the storming of Gallipoli in World War One, which was in
1916.
Stuff this up, but yeah, I think it was 1916. Obviously, World War One went for a few years there.
Yeah.
There's a plane flying overhead now going to the Anzac Day display in the city, so I'll wait till that goes past and I'll finish.
Just on that, I've seen a few planes flying around this morning. Down near the airfield there's a couple of old school planes like putting along in the sky, like
Cessnas and stuff.
Noisy as hell, just like right there, fucking chugging along so slowly. But yeah, I know they didn't build them too efficient back then, but they still got the job done.
That's it, right? They still flew. But so Anzac Day is like a remembrance day for the storming of Gallipoli in World War One, and we use it often to commemorate all of the sacrifice of war throughout history and throughout the Australian and New Zealand history. So yeah, if anybody was from overseas and didn't know what that was, that's my terrible but brief explanation of that. So hopefully that clears a few things up.
Yeah, let us know anyone else that's here.
Yeah, we'd love to see who's here.
Sweeney in the comments, but anyone else is always good to see you. See you tuning in. So, but obviously going on last time, like you said, talking about conflict and sabotaging. Often we can sabotage ourselves, and our thoughts can do that, but also we sabotage our relationships with other people, and just by being closed-minded and going in with a perspective of not a willingness to listen and to understanding other people's positions, and that's where we end up. At the end of the day, we lose out.
You end up in war, don't you?
Yeah.
And somebody loses in war.
Well, everyone loses in war.
Well, everyone loses in war.
No one goes to war and doesn't lose anything. So that's the facts of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know, definitely one of those things where, just expanding on last month's conversation, we're really looking today to go into the benefit of that and how we can actually make the most of those opportunities. When people want to present us with conflicts, how we can actually absorb that and utilize that for our benefit.
Mm.
And to get a lot from that. So
That's it.
yeah.
Well, that's probably a good point to welcome everyone officially to Wartooth 23.
Yep.
Sabotage and sacrifice. So once again, as for those guys that are just joining us for the first time on the Raw Truth is a collaboration of knowledge and discussion around contemporary social issues and interpersonal struggles. We're here to empower the metal community to have discussions about things that maybe people don't often talk about, especially with, as I said, interpersonal struggles and contemporary issues in the world around us. So we're providing a platform here for us to talk, but also for you guys to contribute your thoughts and feelings and discussions as well. So welcome aboard the Raw Truth, and
Sick.
Yeah, ready for a killer Sunday chat about all things sabotage and sacrifice, man.
Yeah, man.
As Wally said, let us know if you guys are in the comments. I think we're having a few little connection issues. Things might be slow to pop up, but I think we do have some stuff here.
There you go.
There we go. So good to see Kate and Darren joining us once again. It's good to catch up with you guys the other night, actually. Good to see you all. And absolutely. So, sabotage and sacrifice, man. I guess touching on what we spoke about last time.
Yeah.
Continuing that discussion.
Yeah.
Last time we spoke a lot about that whole idea of conflict and going into discussions with an open-mindedness.
Yeah.
To not necessarily have to be there to prove a point and to win the argument and to dominate the discussion with like, this is my opinion, this is like what's right, but going into discussion to learn, to be open-minded, to understand more than anything, and that sort of prevents a lot of the conflict. You can still disagree, you can still have different opinions, but you don't necessarily have to have like conflict and combat. If we go in with ears rather than mouths, if we go in with open arms rather than weapons. So I think, do you have something, have you experienced any of that in the last month since we chatted last time?
Well, yeah, man. I guess, the ability to myself to go into conversations with people and really try to, not go with an agenda, not going into a conversation with someone looking to push my views into them or even, discuss anything with them. Really just like going in just to listen to their perspective. And that's something I've actually had a couple of times, it's quite difficult at work because at work myself, I'm being a leader. I'm trying to, let's persuade everyone to move in the direction that I see, the team moving. So in that instance, when people are coming to you with ideas, you really want to be open, keeping your objectives in mind, but also like, okay, they're coming with you to ideas, and you go, okay, well, how can that help us to achieve our objective? And then really, letting them help to decide whether their opinion will help us to get there or not. But just in the public space, in meeting up with people and things like that, I'm living my life and that's fine for me, and you're living your life and that's fine for you. But when I asked, why is it you're doing what you're doing, or what is it that you're doing, that's completely opposite to me. I'm just really trying to focus on accepting that and really, listening to that and going, okay, well, what reason are you doing what you're doing? And, listen to people explain that really helped me to see why they are where they are and see why they do what they do and what drives them, you know, what their purpose is, what their meaning is, whether it's, just to live in less pain every day because they have a traumatic injury, or to, just to go to bed to survive, go to work to survive and pay the bills, and that's the reason they get out of bed every morning. Really interesting just to listen to people, because I, have a lot of enthusiasm for living, and it's like, there's always another thing to be working on. There's more things to get than, just to maintain at a minimum living standard. It's like, all right, let's push this sucker and see how far we can go.
Yeah.
But other people aren't always like that, and so for me in the last month, I've really had to focus on listening to people and like learning about where they are. And I had a couple of conversations with people which really helped me to open my mind and see why they are where they are, and why what they're looking at is what they're looking at. Because if I'm in a different position, I can see their perspective and understand, why they think they can only do so much, or even just why it is that they enjoy what it is that they're doing, even though that maybe there is so much more to life and opportunities, but they're only where they are because that's where they are.
So that was, it's an interesting point there, Wally. Like you're saying, it's one of those things. Like you, with your experience and your knowledge of like what you've lived so far. Like everyone's obviously got their own experiences and their own knowledge, what they've learned and picked up throughout their own life.
Yeah.
And their own interactions with people and all that sort of thing. So at the end of the day, we can all only ever operate on the knowledge and experience that we have.
Yeah.
And obviously, all having different knowledge and experience means we all have different opinions about things. We all see different things. In the same experience, the same event might happen, the same thing might happen, and all people look at it different ways because we've all got different knowledge and experience. Maybe some of us have seen that thing happen before, and so we're like, oh, we know, do this or don't do that thing or whatever, or we need to react in this way.
Yeah.
Other people that haven't experienced that before, well, they've got a myriad of other experiences and might all see that same thing. What looks like a cube from your angle looks like a sphere from somebody else's angle, looks like a pyramid from over there. And it's like nobody's right or wrong. We're all just operating on our own experiences and knowledge, which is it's something to I think everyone always needs to remind themselves of, and obviously myself included. It's like we only ever see things from our perspective, but everyone else doesn't always see it from our perspective. They see it from theirs.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where we talked about coming into things with an understanding and being willing to listen and see things from other people's perspective, rather than saying like what I see is correct. I think there's an image. It's floated around on social media for a while now, but there's like two people standing either side of a drawing on the ground, and the drawing on the ground is like, well, it's like a 6 or it's a 9, and it's obviously they're the same shape letters depending on which way you look at it from. Numbers, sorry, not letters. And there's one person on one side and one person on the other side. One guy's saying it's a 6, the other guy's saying it's a 9. It's like, well, who's correct in that sense? Like, there's no right answer. It's just about which way you look at it from.
Yeah.
And so I think, so it's important, I think, to be able to listen and understand what other people see rather than always coming in with our own opinions. But
yeah.
You were saying you were having some conversations the other day with some people, and I know you sort of told me a little bit of the story, and I'm really excited for you to share that with the Wartoothers here, the Warpath Warriors, and sort of explain what you learnt and what you sort of came across with that discussion.
Well, I guess in that process, and it's something I've been focusing on for probably a good 12, 18 months now, really like, obviously everything we do in our life is, as you said, it's just a sum of all the experiences we have had so far. And so knowing that I'm only 26 and so therefore haven't experienced a whole lot, have experienced something, I'm trying to focus more on going into conversations, knowing essentially nothing that it is you're talking about, and knowing that something that you have to say is something of value to me, something that I can get value from. And so listening to people in that way, knowing that even if you're, 15 years old or whether you're 50 years old, you might have a lot of experiences in things that I haven't got experiences in, and therefore you have some level of wisdom to share with me. And so knowing that, I've therefore got to change the way I come into a conversation and be ready to listen to people, assuming that I know nothing about what it is they're talking about and everything that you say is somewhat correct.
Yeah.
Not that that's not having confidence in my perspective or experiences, because maybe you can say something and I have a conflicting.
That's the balance, isn't it?
Exactly
well.
Right.
Yeah.
So, just going in there only to listen and to absorb, and then comparing that to what it is that I've done, and being able to filter out and then holding on to the parts which I believe are important. Doing that, is something that's really allowed me to learn a lot and to take from people, I think, which is the key. I can take from people such wisdom, and in doing that, I've found, people are even commenting on the way that me just listening to them makes them feel. People are able to sit there.
Can you expand on that a bit more?
Well, just by listening to people and what they have to say, they feel so cared for, Is that the right word? You know, people are so very much appreciative that they get to share what it is without being interrupted, without being told they're wrong, dumb, or stupid, or any of those things. And I think that's like, I've just uncovered this very powerful skill, you know, that we can go into conversations looking to be completely neutral about everything, and holy crap, like the other people feel amazing because they get that opportunity to be treated like they have something to give to the world, and it makes them feel so passionate and more excited to share their story because someone actually listened and someone actually cares. But in that event, both people are gaining. You know, I'm gaining because I'm listening and learning things, and then the other person's gaining because they're getting to share and feel good about sharing. And obviously, we know that if I have to tell something and I have to share something with you, I get to reinforce what it is that I am sharing. So if I have a fact and I explain that, I have to therefore, I am reinforcing the fact that I know that thing, and you know, becoming more knowledgeable. And there was a couple of people in particular just talking about.
Sorry to cut you off there, Wally, but I think like the power of listening is huge, and I think it's something that a lot of people don't really understand. It's like giving people their space, their voice to have an opinion, to say how they feel, to express themselves. It empowers them through the conversation, which it sounds like that's the experience you're having. Is like by listening to the people that you're talking to, they're feeling empowered in the conversation to get to say their thoughts and feelings and express themselves. And then, as you say, it's a double win because then you get to learn all about their perspective and things like that. And so maybe you learn some new tips for life, or like whatever it is you're talking about. You know, you get to learn from this other person's experience. Whereas if you're just talking at them, or like if you're expressing yourself, you don't get to learn anything.
No.
And they don't get to feel validated. By talking about themselves. So it's it's a win-win, isn't it?
Exactly. In that process, you know, there's becoming a bond, and you're not sabotaging yourself, and you're not conflicting in the conversation. You know, you're very much finding like this middle point of two people are winning, which is like an exact representation of what it is that we're here to discuss today. And that.
So is that like what I guess what you're saying is, in the ideal situation, both people would share and listen, so you're both learning, you're both feeling validated, like you're both getting to express yourselves and learn from each other, and feel validated at the same time. Is that that would be like the ideal situation, right? Where nobody.
Well, it was interesting because I didn't even feel the need to share anything. You know, I was just so like so comfortable in listening that I didn't even need to provide like conflicting opinions or even agreeable opinions. You know, to say that even my experiences were similar or they were completely opposites. I got enough fulfillment from just listening and absorbing.
Wow.
You know, and that was quite crazy. Looking back at it, you know, after the fact, upon reflecting on that conversation, it was very much a case of it didn't matter what I had to say about that. You know, I didn't necessarily have anything to give, but I didn't feel that I needed even to give anything. You know, that wasn't even the part of the conversation. I guess if you're talking about, you know, let's say going to war, for example, you know, both countries or both parties in any sort of disagreement are trying to get their agenda met. So you're trying to come to a level of understanding and some sort of middle ground. But in this conversation, like, that's not what I had. Maybe that's because I didn't have an agenda, you know, and in a lot of conversations, you know, just because we have a different perspective doesn't mean that needs to be known, you know.
True.
Because maybe that can just lead to conflict.
Well, exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If you're coming into with an agenda of like, I need to say my opinions on everything, it's like, I mean, conflict isn't always a bad thing, and it's not something that you should be necessarily afraid of.
Yeah.
But it's certainly when two people are having different opinions on things, there's conflict can arise. But it's like, is it necessary to have that conflict?
Yeah.
Do I actually need to have an opinion on this thing? Some things, yes, maybe. But like, not always.
Yeah.
You don't always have to have opinions on stuff. Sometimes you can just listen, like you say, and just get value from that. And it sounds like that was your experience. So
And I know very much so that the idea that our opinions don't even always need to be known, and I'm very comfortable with, let's say, people not knowing my opinion, because if I know everyone else's opinion and they don't know mine, then I'm actually the one holding all the cards. In the game of chess here that we can play in a negotiation or whatever the case may be. Not that you're trying to use that against other people, but in actual fact, like, if you know all the stories, then you can actually piece it all together and take the best bits, and then you win.
Well, I guess that's a thing as well, isn't it? It's like if you're listening to everyone else, maybe you do have an opinion, but you wait and you hold that opinion until everyone else has had their say. You take all those opinions on board, use that to temper your own opinion, and be like, maybe what is my opinion about this now that I've listened to everyone else?
Yeah.
Maybe my opinion's slightly different.
Yeah.
And then you can give a more educated or
now you know the most.
deeper experience.
Yeah.
But then you can still have your opinion, but it's coming from a place of greater understanding rather than just coming in straight off the bat like, I'm right, you guys are wrong.
Yeah.
Let's fight this out.
And it's a very humbling experience too to think about the fact that in any given conversation, like, I know nothing about what it is that you're about to say. I have not walked in your shoes. I do not know who you are inside, and therefore everything that you are sharing is completely new and green to me. And I don't know anything about that. Maybe you can say you're facing this problem, and I can say, well, here's the solution. But the fact is, you haven't experienced it in the way that I have experienced it. For example, if I've climbed a mountain and you're like, oh, I'm thinking about climbing this mountain, and I can say, oh, it's easy, you just do this, this, and this, then maybe you haven't actually got those skills, or maybe you haven't got the right level of fitness, or maybe, you're looking at climbing it from another way, you have a different reason, whatever the case may be, you're trying to achieve it in a different route that I am, and so therefore all of my experiences on achieving something won't apply to you because you're trying to go the other way.
Yeah, and one of the things that we often find with on social media and conflict and things like that in the political sphere is people are giving you opinions on, let's say, how to climb a mountain, but they haven't actually climbed a mountain.
Yeah.
They just think they know how to climb a mountain, and then they're like, well, this is how you should do it. It's like, well, what experience do you actually have? How do you even understand what we're trying to do here?
Yeah.
Have you even lived this life? Or are you just throwing opinions down because you feel like you have to have an opinion?
You need to have an opinion, yeah.
It's like, you don't even have to have an opinion. And
yeah.
I would say almost you shouldn't have an opinion unless it comes from some sort of experience and like, it's got some ground in it, and it's like some knowledge. Like, otherwise, if you're voicing uneducated opinions, that's, it's like opens the door for a lot of conflict. But B, it's like, well, where does that opinion actually come from? Is that the ego?
Yeah.
Or is it maybe it's coming from a place of care because you care about the other person, and you're like, well, be careful with this thing because it might be dangerous, or I don't know, maybe, like, I guess it's up to the person where it's coming from, but in oftentimes it can be just from the ego of like, well, I think I know how to do this thing that I've never done before, and so you feel like you have to tell everyone else how to do that, to live their life and how to do things, but
and that does evolve also. For example, like, let's say in the conversation with parents or with friends or whatever it may be, when you're talking about doing a new endeavor, and they're like, oh, but be careful of this, be careful of that, whatever the case may be. It's like, well, have you done it? Like, you don't even know what I know about the things, so therefore you commenting on things to be aware of or things to do, whatever the case may be. Okay, I know that you're trying to ensure that I stay safe, but you don't know even what grounds I've established, or what level I am at in order to pursue that thing. And so that's, again, like the balance that we come in, not jumping to conclusions about what people know, not jumping to conclusions about the perspectives that people are coming from. We've got to ask for that greater understanding, in order to go, oh, well, I can see that you're concerned for me. What is it that you know about this thing that leads you to be concerned? Because, we've all heard the news story about, oh, this thing happened to that person when they tried it. So if you say that you're going to try it, and the person's like, oh, well, I seen on the news that someone failed miserably, like, oh, you're going to start using a financial planner. Like, oh, be careful, those financial planners will take all your money and you'll end up broke. Because they had a bad experience, one bad experience, so they can be scared for you. be like, okay, I respect your opinion, but it just that was one event, you know, just things like that. So oftentimes, maybe people can have a completely justified opinion, but we need to respect that, you know.
I guess that's where the listening and the understanding comes in, right?
Seek that understanding
rather than shutting down people. Yeah, absolutely, man. It's one of those tricky things. But like you were saying before, to reiterate back to where you were saying that just by listening, that you felt like you got enough value out of a conversation, for example, and you felt like you were able to empower other people.
Yeah.
But you also felt empowered yourself just by listening, because you're gaining knowledge and you're gaining understanding.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting, because I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are scared of. If they don't have their opinions and they just sit there and listen, they're like, well, if all I'm doing is listening, where's my value in the conversation? When do I get to get value out of this thing by expressing myself? It's like, well, expressing yourself isn't the only way to get value, I guess.
Correct.
I think that's quite interesting there. But I'd just like to give a shout out, guys. We've got a few US Americans.
US Americans, yeah.
US Americans. We've got a few Americans joining us in the chat today, guys. So it's really cool to see Carl, Damien, Christopher. So g'day, guys, and Tom as well. Sorry, I missed Tom there. So we just had a bit of a connection issues with the comments coming up, and they've just all refreshed at the moment and came in. So we'd just like to give a shout out to all you guys. They're all discussing what g'day means.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're not really. Excellent. But yeah, it's interesting. So I guess I'm going to put it out to the guys in the chat there, and just sort of say, have you guys had any similar experiences? I mean, I'm sure we've all been on social media watching everyone, throw their opinions out into the world and create conflict. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if you guys have had to deal with that sort of thing, or maybe you're a person that likes to express yourself a lot. I'm not sure, but let us know in the comments what your thoughts on that are, and maybe you've got an experience similar to Wally, where just by listening to somebody, that person and yourself both felt empowered or felt more valued in a conversation. Or if you haven't experienced that, maybe that's something that we could all work on trying over the next month. Is go into just one conversation with no agenda, no plan to express yourself, and just to listen. It's interesting you say that, Wally, because I had a similar experience last night, man. I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone, who was going through some, let's say, mental health struggles. I'm going to keep it kind of vague for privacy reasons, but a few people were. Sorry, he was. I lost my train of thought there for a second. Give me a sec. He was expressing himself in his struggle through mental health and things like this, and it's one of those things. Quite oftentimes, my brain and my mind and my mouth was just what about this? Do this. Maybe try this thing. Because I've certainly, having worked through my own mental health issues, I have some experience with it. Not the same things, but I guess I have some, what you would call maybe advice or tips, or try this, try working through this, or have you looked at it this way?
Yeah.
And I had to keep stopping myself and catching myself no, this is not about me expressing myself. This is about listening. It's about understanding, letting my friend work his own way through these issues and come up with his own solution to his issues, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's like with my mental health, I know I had to find my own solution. Everyone else could have told me, just do this, try this thing, do that thing, you'll be fine. But that, you need to, at least for me anyway, I'm sure a lot of people are like this, you have to find your own path through mental health, and you have to find your own answers, I guess, within yourself, through your own morals, your own values, and all that sort of stuff. And so everyone else keeps throwing opinions and advice at you, and it's hang on, I need to come up with my own solution here. And the way that I do that is by talking through my feelings and my thoughts and all the crazy shit that's going on in here. It's talk it all out, get it out of my system, put it on a piece of paper, say, and then I can look at it and be more objective and say, well, okay, maybe if this is my problem, maybe I can look at it this way and then come up with a solution. So I guess what I'm saying is, this conversation that I had with my friend last night, I kept having to stop myself from having opinions. And I think this is a big part because you told me that story about yourself. It was fresh in my mind of no, just listen.
Yeah.
Just listen, and maybe ask questions, but just listen and try to understand, and in that way. I'm not here to give. He didn't call me up because he wanted me to give him advice. He called me up because he wanted to express himself and talk through his issues. So that's my job, is just to listen there. you know, and it's very, very tricky sometimes because your ego and your brain is always like, I've got the answer, I've got a solution here, try this thing, and it's like, shut up brain, like I need to listen, like this is the ear's job, not the mouth's job, you know.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to you know, being a good listener, and you know, knowing that the master sensei, you know, speaks in question just on that, so that one can have that self-discovery. You know,
can you explain that a little more?
Well, you know, like you talk to the wisest people, and all they do is like ask you the question, so that you end up speaking out the answer that you're searching for within yourself. You know, you're able to comment on the fact and ask and tell people a story, and then when other people are asking you the right questions, you're able to then speak the answer into reality. You know, and that's one thing that I guess I'm trying to work on too, is, as you've just said there, asking people the right questions, not with the intention of necessarily helping them, but to give myself a greater understanding, but that forces them to explore their situation a whole lot more, and may end up stumbling across the answer that they're looking for anyway. And you know, for me, that's like the most important part, is to understand not just the direct words that they speak, but all the thoughts and the feelings that are occurring around that. So by asking those questions, they often get to discover within themselves what it is that they're struggling with,
and come up with their own answers.
Exactly.
Like exactly. Yeah. That's a big one, man. And I think it's really important to empower other people in that way.
Yeah.
You certainly, one of the things, actually touching back towards the Anzac Day thing, thing that was mentioned in the dawn service this morning, at the end of the service, they kind of touched on the fact of like military personnel and the people that go and sacrifice their lives and things for our freedoms. They're not doing that for their own glory. They're doing it for the good of society. They're doing it as a service. That's why they call them servicemen and women. Like, that's their service to society. It's like, I'm going to go sacrifice myself, my time, put my own life at risk, as in service of other people, to empower other people to live a better life. Much in the same way that, like, and sorry, as I was saying, so at the end of the service, they sort of said, they encouraged everyone that was in attendance to go out and be of service to the community in some way, in the spirit of the Anzacs. You know, it's not about go and do it for your own glory and like, oh, I did this thing, I helped this person, like, good on me. That's not what it's about. It's about empowering other people and just like giving back to the community in whatever way that, you know, sacrifice something, whether it be an hour of your time, whether it be some money, whether it be some sort of greater sacrifice of your own choice for somebody else's benefit, you know. And much in the same way, you sacrifice your own opinions to just listen. Like, I don't need to have an opinion. I'm going to sacrifice the need to have an opinion just so I can listen and empower the other person.
Yeah.
Again, not so that I can pat myself on the back, but just for them, for their benefit, for somebody else's benefit. And that might be a very very foreign concept for some people, I'm not sure, but I mean, I'm sure not for you guys. You guys all seem like really, really great people, and certainly that's what we've developed within our community online and things like that. It's, generally speaking, the people that seem to follow our page and get involved in these discussions are great people, like they're very generous and understanding and things like that. So,
and knowing that it is important to just listen, and as I said earlier, that can make the other person feel all the greatness and cared for and validated and all those other things without even having to say a word, you know, just by being an ear. Because in our society, you know, there's so many people who cut people off, and they have so many things to say, and they just love to interrupt and have all their opinions heard, but no one wants to talk to those people, you know. no one wants to, because like, I'm just trying to tell someone about my story, and this other person just keeps jumping in, like they don't even care, and it's repulsive, you know.
It is.
Like that's causing a level of conflict, like we spoke about earlier. So you just bail on the whole conversation. You're like, well, this person doesn't even care. But when someone just sits there with their mouth shut and their arms open and their ears open, as long as they're not asleep, you're like, they actually care. You know, they don't have to say anything.
They could just listen.
Yeah, and knowing that you have the power to play that role and provide that level of, you know, comfort and caring for other people, like, damn, that's powerful discovery, you know.
Oh, yeah.
No one needs to know what I think, because that's not often why people are having a conversation with me.
If people ask your opinion, for sure, share it. But if people are coming to you to have a conversation, they most likely want to express themselves.
Yeah.
So you just telling them what they should do, or where they should go, how they should do it. It's like they're not gonna, as you say, I'm trying to share my story. You keep cutting me off with your opinions and your advice.
Yeah.
Like, that's not why I'm here, man. Like, I don't want to talk to you because you just keep interrupting me.
Yeah.
But understanding is really important, man. I think just having a look here. There's a few people. It's in saying what you're saying about the sensei thing. Miss Kate has just shared Master Shifu from Kung Fu Panda, which is a great movie, by the way. Is the role of the sensei, the role of the guidance person, whatever role that role has, is the idea is to help people be themselves in the best way.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, I've mentioned before that I'm like seeing a psychologist sometimes as well for my own mental health stuff, and it's like that's the role of a psychologist, isn't to make me be a certain person.
Yep.
It's to help me be the best me I can be.
Yeah.
And so their job often is to listen and ask questions.
Yeah.
Not to like educate me on how to deal with my mental health. It's just to like listen and ask me questions so I can deal with my own mental health.
Yeah.
It's all about empowering the other person, man.
Yeah.
And you do that through listening and asking questions rather than, you don't empower somebody by telling them
what to do. Yeah, that's the opposite.
That's
that's
not
taking away all their power.
You might like it might be helping them by giving them positive advice, but it's not empowering them. There's a difference between those two things.
Yeah.
But
Damo said something there too about him and his mate just sharing things on different angles, and that's often the best friend that you can have is like laying it on the table and then talking around the problem. Talking about all the different potentials that are capable, and come to agreed resolutions. Come to some sort of okay, we've weighed up all the options, and now this is the best path to go down. That's something that we do a lot. Just for the band and our own lives and things like that. You sort of say, well, here's the problem that we're facing, and now like everyone throw in how they see that, and then okay, well, let's all agree this is the best pathway to go down.
But that's the thing, right? It's like by looking at things from all the different angles, you can come up with a more rounded solution.
Yeah.
Because you're actually seeing the problem for its full thing. So, like you say, like Damien said, it's like by having friends that look at things from different angles, you might think that's annoying because it's like it's always conflicting and they're disagreeing with me, and it's like, no, that's actually better because you're getting to look at, instead of just saying, like if all your friends agreed with you and thought the same way you thought, you'd look at a thing and say it's like this, and they would go, yeah, I see the same thing. But nobody's looking at it from the other sides. Nobody's looking at it from the top or from the bottom or from the back side or from the left or whatever. It's like, so by having people around you that look at things differently, you get to like get the full picture of the puzzle, and you get to see all the different pieces. And I think that's really important. I mean, I know we spoke a few Wartooths ago about surrounding yourself with like-minded people in order to help you along your journey and instill confidence and things like that in yourself. But equally, it's as important to surround yourself with people that are not like-minded to continually provide different perspectives in life.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. That's the rich gamut of life. It's great to have different opinions. It's great to have similar opinions.
Yeah, I'll share a story on that in a minute after you go through the couple of other things
Yeah,
people
just
have mentioned.
A few people have just put in some comments. So I'd like to talk back to Kate's point a little while ago. She's a teacher, or she was a teacher. And so some kids might be displaying disruptive behavior in class. One is smart and bored, and one can't see the board. So, for example, you've got like one kid that's like well ahead of the class and is like, I already get what you're teaching me, I don't need to pay attention. Whereas somebody else who might be like really struggling is far way behind. You can't teach all those kids the same way. You can't just provide the same information to everyone and expect them all to pick it up. You have to talk to each person, listen to each person, and converse with them all in their own way for everyone to understand the concept.
Yeah.
Like, this is not necessarily a new thing, but like some people are visual learners, some people talk through things, some people learn through experience, all those different things. And I'm sure I haven't even got half of the different ways of learning things. And I think, like Kate, it must be really challenging as a teacher to be able to teach a class full of like 20-something people that are all completely different people and all learn in different ways. Like, it's one of the many challenges of it being a teacher, I would imagine. And I'd love to hear more about that, Kate, if you want to share a little bit about how you deal with so many different people and perspectives, and like every kid's got their own family life, which will be different, their own personal life. In saying that, they would also have their own attitudes towards school and towards maybe they like that subject and they don't like this subject.
So many variables.
Somebody else likes this subject but they don't
Yeah.
like that subject, and one kid just wants to be at home playing guitar, he doesn't want to be at school. Another kid wants to be out playing football. Some other kid's like, yes, I love maths and I'm all about it. Somebody else is like, where's the video games at? And
Yeah.
you know, like somebody staring out the window at the butterflies in the trees. Like, how do you? I couldn't even imagine how you would like get
Yeah.
all of those people on the same page to be like,
Yeah.
this is what we're learning today.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the miracle of being a teacher. But
Yeah, 100%.
like, Kate, if you could share some about that, because that just blows my mind. I'm really intrigued to hear like what that would be like, and how you manage that. It must be so challenging.
And in that, Kate will therefore become a master communicator in understanding people's positions.
You
know?
would think so, hey? And maybe that's one of the
the
beauties.
great challenges of it, yeah.
Challenges,
and
but
the
also like,
rewards.
as a teacher, like you'd be so good at communicating with people.
Yeah.
I would think. I know Kate is really good at communicating with people. In my experience with talking to her and things like that. So, what else is going on in the comments here, guys? While Kate responds to that.
Old Tom down there is
Oh,
at it
Tom.
again.
Yeah, so Tom was telling me before, I noticed he put up a comment, he spent a lot of times working on himself. And he was saying, everything that's going on in the States at the moment, I mean, obviously there's a lot of political tension. It's better not to have an opinion, because basically everyone is just screaming their own opinions, which sounds a lot like social media, to be honest.
Yeah.
And maybe that's partly to do with it all as well. But yeah, man, and that's a big concept of our album. I'm sure you guys that have got our CD, have you read that little blurb on the inside of the cover? You know, it's like we spoke about, like, the world is full of mouths. The world is full of people's opinions. Like there's a saying that says, like opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one, and they all stink. But,
Straight up.
it is, man.
Okay.
But at the end, like, the world is so full of mouths, and even Wally and I right now, like, we're here talking, and we would love to listen if we could. Maybe there'd be a new format or something that we could do to like get you guys to be more involved in the conversation here. But it's one of those things, like, at the moment the world is so full of everyone giving opinions, like nobody's listening, nobody's sitting there with their ears and
Yeah.
their mouth shut going like what have you got to say about this? Like everyone's just, oh, I think this, and then the other person's like, well, I think this, and then before you know it, everyone's screaming at each other, and you've got a bloody civil war opening up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really what's going on in this world. But as I said, that's part of the concept of our album, is like that whole thing is like, in a world full of mouths, like just be a pair of ears, just listen and understand. I think that's so critical and so missed. And like Tom has just said, all of that voicing of opinions just gets everyone emotional, gets everyone angry. And all that does is make you want to yell louder and scream more.
Yeah,
So,
like as I said, if I'm talking and I'm not being listened to, I don't feel like I've got my point across. And so I think the solution is to say it louder, but it's obviously not, because that's not working. So there needs to be a different approach if I'm going to come. If I want my opinion to be heard, and you're not willing to listen to that, what do I do? And that's
What
the
would you do?
challenge. Well, I don't know. You just assume that person doesn't want to listen,
Maybe.
But maybe you've got to show that respect first, and then go, okay, well, you don't want to listen to my opinion. Okay, well then how about you show me yours? And instead of holding my position and my perspective on that, I can actually come around and stand where you are, looking back and say, oh, okay, well, obviously you think my idea's, dumb, or it leaves you worse off or whatever. And, just learning about, let's say, the basics of negotiation. If we're bartering over the price of a car and I'm coming down here but you want to sell it up here, obviously you're upset when I come in down here because you think it's worth more than that, and you've got bills to pay, and you've got money, you might have a debt to pay back and all these sorts of things. So when I come in way lower than what you're expecting to sell it for, of course you'd be upset. Of course you'd be like, well, no, it's definitely worth more than that. When I come at someone with an opinion and they're not willing to listen, I'm like, well, of course you need to hear what I have to say. Like, my opinion's important because it's important to me, because it's important that I get my objective out of this conversation, out of this negotiation. want to talk about politics, it's important for our party to get our idea across the line because we think it will benefit the nation.
What do you think the solution to that is, though?
Well, as I said, you got to give before you can receive. Obviously, I mean that's the way I look at it.
Can you touch on that a little more?
Well,
that's like you're saying giving as in listening, giving them the opportunity to express themselves. Can you explain that a bit more? That's like I like the way that sounded.
Yeah, well, I mean that's what I think. If we're having a negotiation about something, and a disagreement, like I shouldn't try to get my opinion across until I can understand why it is that you're coming from where you're coming from, and what it is that you're hoping to get out of it. Because that's what's causing you your sense of frustration. It's because you're not getting what it is that you want. But in any given conversation, if I can give you what you want, you'll end up happy. But then I just need to make sure, if it's important to me, that I don't give up everything I wanted and, let's say, lose it all.
It's interesting, man, because when people are happier, two things, sorry. Once people are happier, they're often more willing to listen.
Yes.
So if people want to express all of their needs and wants and whatever their opinions, you listen to that, they become happier that they've expressed themselves, then they might be more inclined to listen back.
Exactly.
Return the favor.
Exactly.
But also just on that is this concept of giving before you can receive. Sorry, I lost my train of thought again. So oftentimes in conversation, what people actually want is just to be heard.
Yeah.
They don't want anything else other than just, can you just listen to my opinion?
Yeah.
And then I'm good. That's all I need. I don't need anything else. I just want to be heard. So by giving them that, then they become, like you say, they're happy because they've got what they wanted.
Yeah.
And now that they've got what they wanted, they're like, okay, cool, I've been heard. What do you got now? What do you want? The favor gets returned,
And that actually happened in my relationship, when I failed to listen and I'm pushing for my tangible result of I actually need you to do this thing, or I actually need this thing from the relationship. The more I push with that, and my missus is coming at it, and then I take a step back and say, hang on, what does you actually want? What do you actually want from this conversation? If I want this thing over here, what are we fighting? What's the thing you want? And all it is to be heard. And once she's heard, she'll give me what it is that I want. But I've got to hear that perspective first, and then show that I understand the opinion.
Yeah.
And then she'll actually give me the thing I want, and you get so caught up in it, and when you sit back after the fact, you're like, that's exactly right. And I've actually had to say it to it. I've had her say that to me. I'll give you what you want, but you just have to hear what I have to say. I'm like, what? Why is there even a negotiation occurring if you're not actually fighting for for the opposite thing? Why couldn't I just say my piece and you agreed with me?
Because she wants to be heard.
Yeah.
It's actually on that, man. I heard a really, really powerful, I don't want to call it a quote, but a powerful lesson, let's say. And this is going to be I think, the little nugget that gets taken out of this Wartooth episode, I heard a piece of advice that has changed the way I interact with people. And it's when people are coming to you and they're expressing themselves, and you might think that they're asking for advice, or they're looking for they've got a problem and they're expressing their problem, right? There's a really, really powerful thing you can do, and there's one particular question you can ask them, and it is it just changes the entire direction of the conversation. And when I heard it, I took it on and I used it a few times, and it's this actually works. And all you have to do is ask people one question when they're expressing themselves, and that is, ask them, do you want my opinion? Do you want my advice? Or do you just want me to listen? And you don't need to word that any other way. You don't need to word it fancy. It's not like some negotiation trick. It's not some sort of manipulation, psychological manipulation. Literally, you can say it just like that. Do you want my advice, or do you just want me to listen? Plain English. And you know what? They will always answer that question whichever way they want to go. They will say, no, I want your advice. Or they will say, no, I just want you to listen.
Yeah, right.
And once they say that, you know where you stand in that conversation.
Yeah.
You know they either want your opinion, or they just want you to listen.
Oh man, that's crazy.
That question has changed the way I interact with people, man. like in such a big way. Like, so when people are expressing themselves, like I said last night on the phone to my friend, I said to him at some point, because I kept catching myself trying to give my opinions, I was like, hang on, shut up. Ask that question. So I asked him, and I said, like, man, like, do you actually want my advice here? Or do you just want me to listen to you? And he said, no, I just want you to listen, man. And I was like, I can do that.
Yeah, right.
Cool. And then I stopped, the urge to like keep putting my opinion in disappeared.
Yeah,
because
then you know.
no, that's not my job here. Yeah. I'm here just to listen, you know? So guys, like, take that. If nothing else from this Wartooth, take that little question and go and use it in your life. And it's amazing. Like, you'll see drastic results, and it's especially valuable in a relationship sense.
Yeah.
You know, when people are, when say like a partner is coming to you with emotional problems, or they're not even problems but just emotions, and you're saying like, okay, cool, like, do you want me to give you advice on what to do, or you just want me to listen? And they'll say one of the two, and then you know where you stand, and it's just, it puts your own mind at ease. You don't feel the need to interrupt. You don't feel the need to give advice if they don't want it. But if they do want your advice, you can give it with confidence, and you know they're going to listen to you because they actually asked for your advice.
Yeah.
But you can't assume that people are talking to you and they want your advice.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, definitely, you know, take that question and go and use it. It's changed my life.
Yeah, man. People have been blowing minds right there. Blowing my mind.
It's certainly something you need to practice, and it's something, like, I'm still practicing it, like I said. But yeah, man, it's powerful stuff. And what it does is it gets rid of all the conflict in a conversation, because you're not trying to give advice when they want to be heard.
Yeah.
Or you're not just listening when they actually want your advice.
Yeah.
Everyone wins.
Yep.
You know, it's so powerful. And yeah, I just got a couple more comments here, guys. From so yeah, like, let me know what you guys think of that. If you've experienced that, or maybe you've tried that sort of approach before in conversation. It was new to me. I'm not saying it's new to everyone, but it was new to me, and it really blew my mind. And so I really love to share that with you guys. What have we got here, Josh? Yes, both sides of the political spectrum are blah blahing at each other. Nobody actually cares. Nobody wants to hear each other and understand, you know. And exactly what Josh is saying there, you know, you've got to. Everyone's trying to be normal for themselves, but and I think he's got a Dr. Seuss quote there. I know, Josh, you've put up that quote a few weeks ago on social media as well. It's like, you know, why fit in when you were born to stand out? So a part of that is being individual, being yourself, being able to just be like, this is me, this is who I am, expressing yourself when needed, but also you don't need to be on a team yelling at the other team. Why do you need to be on any team? Why can't you just be a person, listening and understanding everyone else, learning and having your own opinions on things, man? I think that's really, really powerful, Josh. So thank you for sharing that, man. And as in a similar fashion, Damien's saying there, you know, stay in the grey. Don't be black or white. That's military thinking. And again, the concept of our album, Program Dichotomy, is this red versus blue mentality that exists in the, well, it used to just exist in the political sphere, but now it exists on social media. It exists bloody everywhere.
Yeah.
You're either on this side of politics or you're on that side of politics. And every social issue that comes up, you have to be on a side.
Yeah.
If you're not with us, you're against us.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just so damaging, that dichotomy, that dogmatic approach to life. Like, the world is not black and white. The world is not red and blue. It's a rainbow of colors. It's a spectrum of opinions and diverse people who all have different experiences. And in the vein of what Josh is saying, you know, we're all individuals who have our own experiences and thoughts. Circling back around to the beginning of the conversation, we all have our own opinions and experiences, and we're not meant to be fitting into like a team of this side or that side of the fence.
Yeah.
And it's not about sitting on the fence. It's about, there is no fucking fence.
Yeah.
We're all like just people in a field
Just
having a
scattered on the
conversation.
spectrum.
Like,
yeah.
And
Just scattered out there, and we all a little bit closer to this person, maybe the other person a little bit further away, but it just depends what conversation you're having, you know, because the next conversation you might be standing right next to each other.
that's the thing too. Is like,
Yeah.
depends on the issue, depends on the conversation, depends on what your opinion is on it.
Yeah.
There is no red and blue. There's no team colors when it comes to life. You know, it's not a football game.
Yeah.
It's not a military war of like you're either the enemy or you're a friend.
Yep.
It's like we're all human beings existing together, you know. And
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that whole concept of like, just listen, understand, and when you're constantly yelling at people your opinions, when you're saying this is how I feel, and they say anything back to you that's not in agreement with you, it's quite easy to see them as the enemy because they're not agreeing with you. Therefore, they're the enemy.
Yep.
But if we listen, we understand that they're not the enemy. They're just people with a slightly different opinion on one particular topic.
Yep.
Because they've had different experiences and see things a different way. They're looking at the 9, we're seeing the 6. Doesn't mean they're the enemy. They're just like if we walked around that side, we'd see a 9 too.
Yep.
So it's all about listening and understanding, I think, and that's, you know, as I said, like I'm quite self-aware of the fact that we're talking today, but on this topic, but you know, it's we really think that listening and understanding the world is probably the best way to go because you're not creating so much conflict and war and drama and problems in conversations.
Yeah, and it really puts you right in the middle of that spectrum, you know, between the conflict and, you know, the need to always have your opinion heard, and then the other end of the spectrum, which is like completely the opposite of, well, I know nothing, and then I just drift, and I don't have any confidence or belief in anything because I only absorb, but I don't decide, you know, what it is that I want to believe in. So you have the people who are there, they need everyone to know what it is they think and feel, but the opposite is not thinking and feeling anything, you know, just being completely passive, and that's not being you, that's not being an individual, you know, that's just being a blank, you know.
That's tricky, man, and I've certainly found myself in that part of life more so than the other end where you have to yell your opinions at people. I tend to go more towards the passive end of the spectrum, where I don't have opinions and I just listen, and all I do is listen and try and understand, and you end up being so passive that you're a blank. That's probably the best way to actually describe it, is as a blank.
It's like if you're a human,
I don't have opinions.
You have nothing. Yeah, you're nothing human.
So it's important to. It's oftentimes we want to avoid conflict, so we go with the blend-in route, and we just don't have opinions. We don't say anything to rock the boat. But that's not great for the self-confidence. It's not great for the own identity thing, and that's something that I've been struggling with, and trying to get myself back more towards the middle from that end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. Like everyone's obviously, again, even just in that sense, different parts of the spectrum of like some people like to express themselves more, some people like to be quieter and listen more. And while listening is very important, and I think the reason we're talking about it so much today is because we see the world around us as being very full of people who want to give opinions, not so full of people who want to listen. But maybe you're a person that likes to listen a lot, in which case maybe you should give your opinions more. It's up to the individual and where you're at, but certainly the middle of that spectrum is, again, the balance. Life's all about balance, man. Like everything comes back to that. It's all about fucking balance.
There's always two extremes, and we're just basically ping-ponging between to try and land in the middle somewhere. And you know, the fact that there's a ultimate amount of spectrums, you know, creates the person that we are. You know, because we're a little bit this way on this spectrum, and then we're a little bit this way on this spectrum, and put all the spectrums together, and that makes us the individual that we are. And you know, that's what it all comes down to, is that we can do what it is that we do best and continually work on whatever area and spectrum that it is that we're working on at this time. And you know, for us in the last 4 weeks or so, it's become apparent that this is something that, well, is news to us. You know, that within a conversation dynamic, there are two ends of a spectrum to be on, and it's not good to be at either end of that. You know, and like you said, it's something you've been working through. And
I've been working from this end to like try and express myself more over the last few months. And you're sort of saying you're coming more, and like you explained in your story before, is like you're trying to learn to listen more and understand more. And that's the thing that we're both kind of working on, moving towards the middle. From different ends. It's quite interesting, and I don't know if people know this, but maybe you've picked it up through a lot of these Wartooth discussions, but like as much as Wally and I are very similar people, and obviously being, you know, brothers and raised in the same way, we have a lot of similar opinions on things. We're also very different personality types. Potentially you picked that up, potentially you haven't, but it's one of those things, you know, like everyone's got their own strengths and weaknesses and things that they see in certain ways, and it's all about like the journey of self-development, the journey of personal growth, and the stuff, being on that warpath of life to be the best you can be. That journey is different for everyone. I guess we're all, in a sense, trying to get to that balance point in the middle, but we're all coming at it from different angles.
Yeah.
And what we need to work on is different from person to person.
Exactly.
And even within the dynamic of Wally and myself, we need to work on different things. So, I mean, that's probably a good example of like the fact that we can have different opinions and be in different perspectives.
Yeah.
Still agree on enough things to get along and have a great relationship. And
Yeah.
But there's plenty of times where we argue about stuff, and it's like I look at things this way and he looks at it that way, and we eventually talk around the circle and we see things from each other's perspectives, and then we come up with a result and go forward as a band.
Yeah.
Or as brothers, or whatever the thing is that we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think that the idea that even everyone here today, you know, we're all coming from a common bond of thrash metal, and you know, even some lifestyles are similar, but some are different. You know, there's maybe one common element that joins us all together, but then we're all at completely different places around that common element, and you know that's what makes a conversation a viable thing, because everyone's got different things to contribute. You know, we've all come and been from different places and different experiences, and that allows everyone else to take away all those different perspectives. And that's why, you know, it's so good and important to have everyone commenting and sharing what it is that they have been through.
Absolutely.
Just so we can gain that extra knowledge, we can get that wisdom, and you know, creating that community element, it allows everyone to strive and to get more out of it. So it's really awesome to have everyone here.
Absolutely, yeah. So I guess that's probably a good point to sort of wrap up on, and I'll finish with Damien's point here about Damien used to be a TIE fighter. You know, it's when you're in a fight, you're in the fight, and you've got to win the fight, and maybe it's a competition thing. You know, when you're in an argument with somebody, you might be having an argument, but as Damien said, you know, after the fight, you buy the guy a beer, and you like, it's like a football thing, you know. Certainly that's something I understand, is like you might be playing on a football team versus another football team who's like the enemy for the sake of the football game, but then after the game, you can all be in the pub having a beer together as mates. Like, yes, we just competed, but now we're mates. And I certainly experienced that with bands as well at shows. Like,
yeah,
yes, we're a band trying to play a better show than the other bands that we're on the lineup with, because we're all at the end of the day sort of competing in a sense for like the headline spot or whatever. But after the gig, we're all there for music. We're all there to enjoy the night together. At the end of the day, like, as much as there's some level of competition, there's also like that common element that binds us all together. And like in the fighting sense, you know, Damien, like, you guys are both competing in a fight to win a title or something, but you can still bond over the fact that you both enjoy fighting, you both enjoy that sport.
Yeah, that art.
And it's like, the art, you know, so you can connect over that. And I think that's a thing with music that's so powerful, is music is like a universal language that brings people together. And as I said, maybe that's a good point to sort of wrap it up on, and like, like bringing together people through music, as we are doing here. You guys all come together through your love for thrash metal, and also, you know, you're involved in these discussions because you're interested in these kind of discussions. So there's some common elements, and even if we agree or disagree on some of these things, we can at least all agree on the fact that we love thrash metal and we're here to be better people.
Yeah.
And I guess if you guys really want to get more involved in some of these discussions, we have ways to do that. You can obviously be part of the Warhead Army, Wally.
Yeah, so like these sort of conversations and even conversations like this about the music and all that sort of thing, that's all happening in the Warhead Army. And at the moment, you know, just an email list, so you can sign up to that at signup.wartoothmetal.com. You can put your name down there and join, you know, these conversations in a deeper way. Obviously, we talk about the application not just to life, but also in music, and the fact that a lot of our, you know, like a lot of the things we talk about, for example, this conversation, it comes from our songs that we've written, and it also comes from other songs that other bands have written, because it's so important to explore them in much deeper way. You know, not just a riff and a drum beat and some guy yelling at a microphone. You know, there's a story to tell there. There's knowledge and there's wisdom to be taken from the music, and that's, to me, you know, that's what makes thrash metal so good, is that it always has been, let's say, like an alternative, what's the word, like anti the mainstream.
Yeah, it provides a different perspective on life. And oftentimes with thrash metal, especially, and a lot of other heavy metals, is it talks about subjects that people often find create arguments, so they just don't talk about them. It's like, that's too taboo, or it's too touchy, so we just avoid that conversation altogether. And thrash metal being thrash metal is like, no, we're going to kick that fucking door down and we're going to have that conversation.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about war. We're going to talk about politics.
Yeah.
Talk about environmental destruction. All those hard conversations.
Yeah.
Thrash metal's in there kicking the fucking door down and saying, like, we're here to have a chat about this thing.
Yeah. We're not just going to all hide and pretend it's not happening.
Exactly.
Like, someone stand up and take responsibility for this shit and let's get it sorted.
And that's exactly what we're doing here, mate.
Exactly.
In the Warhead Army. And,
exactly.
Just on that, so as you say, like this conversation today and the one from last time as well, very much about this concept of conflict all the time and conflicting over essentially just our own pride and egos and our own opinions. That whole message comes from our song, Sabotage, which we released a music video for just a couple of weeks ago. If you guys haven't seen it, you can check it out. I'm putting up the link in the comments now. We've got a music video for it, which really sort of nails home the point that at the end of the day, like we're all people and we're all trying to get to the same place. We're just coming at it from different angles. And if you don't quite understand what I mean, you'll understand when you watch the video. But at the end of the day, like there's so much conflict happening in the world.
Yeah.
When we're all people, we're all the same in the end.
Yeah.
Why are we fighting?
Yeah.
Like why can't we listen and understand and try to work through? So, as I said, using the common element of music and our song Sabotage through the music video, you guys can check that one out. And hopefully you guys enjoy the song. Hope you guys enjoy the video. There's a little funny bit at the end if you guys hang around and watch it all the way through. It's about 5 minutes long, so that's in the video. It's about 5 minutes long. I hope you guys enjoy the music, which I'm sure you do, because you're all Warhead fans. Warhead fans? Wartooth fans.
Wartooth fans.
Warheads.
Warhead is the adjective of the person, yeah.
Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words, but...
Warhead is now a noun, so...
Warhead.
Yes.
Capital W.
Capital W.
That's right. But,
That's
awesome.
awesome.
So I hope you guys enjoy Sabotage. And as Wally said, join the Warhead Army if you want to have more conversations. And I think that's, as I said, a good place to wrap up. Hope you guys all have a ripper Sunday. We're going to go have a little jam with another guitarist person that we're not going to talk too much about. But
we just love having the opportunity to play some music again. You know, that we can actually go out and go set up in the studio and make some noise.
Play some thrash metal.
Play some thrash.
And connect with people through music.
Can we tell them what song we're playing?
No, they can wait. But it's the next of the Brothers of Metal jam series. So if you guys haven't seen the last couple we've done, check them out on YouTube while you're over there. Make sure you like and subscribe. As always, we have to say that.
YouTube is the most important
We're
place
trying to get YouTube to 500 subscribers, and we're almost there.
Are we?
Yes, we're getting close. I think we're over 450 now.
Can you help us?
Can you guys help us get to 450? No, get to 500 subscribers on YouTube.
So if you haven't been there, make sure you go, because that's where it's all happening at the moment.
We've got so many videos coming out, man.
If you're not in the Warhead Army, YouTube is the second best place to be. But Warhead Army gets first. So if you want to see it first, then you can be in the Warhead Army. But if you just want to see it later and you don't mind,
if you just want to check out all the music content and the videos that we're putting up, YouTube's the place to be. So make sure you check out Wartooth Metal on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a video. We're doing Brothers of Metal series. As I said, we've done a couple videos already. We've done A Wired to Die, and we've done Pantera's Heresy.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a couple more coming out in the next few weeks, and we're jamming another one today with a guest musician.
Another guest.
And we're really, really stoked to be doing all this stuff. So if you guys want to support us, the best way to do that is hit the subscribe button. And other than that, go and check out some music today. Go and be of service to your community in the spirit of the Anzacs. And go and listen, understand, be of service, and ask people, like I said before, do they just want to be heard, or do they want your advice? Have a great weekend, everyone. Have a great Anzac Day, and see you next time. Sabotage! Sabotage!